They used to make your heart slam against your ribs, the creeping dread as you heard them shuffle just beyond the hallway. Not a monster to smile at, but a menace that turned every breath into a gamble. Now, zombies have become background noise, predictable, almost boring. They stopped being scary. Why? Subscribe to Think What If for more stories that push your imagination to the edge. Close your eyes. Imagine that dank, stale air tinged with rot and decay pressing against your face. The snap of brittle leaves underfoot. The slow, uneven shuffle grows louder behind you. You can almost taste the copper tang of blood and the metallic pull of fear on your tongue. That primal fear, how did it slip away? How does something once terrifying become so tame? It started when zombies stopped surprising us. They became puppets, programmed with the same moves, the same groans, the predictable lurch. You knew where they'd be, how they'd act, which corners were safe. The slow march became a mindless grind. The anticipation drained out like water from a cracked cup. What does it take to turn dread into dullness? We stopped feeling small in a world recklessly tipped upside down. The endless hordes ceased to feel overwhelming when their threat was insufficiently real. It's easier to fight a scripted enemy than the unknown. The mystery fell away. Zombies became mere targets to count, numbers to clear out. Where did the terror vanish? Where does it hide? The problem isn't the monsters, it's how we meet them. We have game after game filled with endless ammo, armor improvements, and relentless supplies. We spend hours becoming untouchable. We learn every pattern, memorize every sound cue. This growing power cracks the illusion. The weight of real danger is lifted off your shoulders. Do safety nets rob your game of its soul? The subtle terror of helplessness is the heartbeat of horror. When you run low on ammo or hide in trembling silence, every creak becomes a scream. Losing that fragility is losing the feeling. When you're godlike, how frightening can anything really be? Is fear only born in vulnerability? Then there is familiarity. Zombies have worn the same mask for decades. They're slow, shambling, moaning threats. We recognize their every twitch and growl. Horror thrives on the unknown, the unpredictable, the unnatural. When your enemy becomes a tired echo of the past, fear falls flat. What if the monster changed its shape? What if the rules weren't the rules anymore? Look at the times when zombies did scare you, the original slow crawl that hinted at death lurking forever. Or the unexpected sprint of a creature breaking the form, the sudden leap, the distorted face, the jagged teeth. Fear lived in their difference and in their unpredictability. What would it feel like if games remembered those truths? There was a time when sound was a weapon and a curse. A footstep could spell doom. Silence was your only friend. The night was pitch black except for a wavering flashlight beam. You felt exposed and minute. Games today shine every dark corner in stark light, erase shadows, and flood rooms with rifle fire. Can a monster still scare you when you hold the spotlight and all the tools? What if the environment fought back? The air thickened with spores, making every breath a struggle. The ground quaked or gave way beneath thin ice. Fog crept close like a living thing. Fighting fear means giving horror the power to shape its world, not just be an obstacle. Does your setting feel alive or just a battleground? Zombies stopped being an overwhelming force because games no longer make survival real. You never die from hunger or thirst. Pain fades fast. Slow and painful deaths are cut or reset. Resurrection undermines urgency. If there is no lasting consequence, what is there to truly fear? How far would you go to survive if every choice could kill you? Imagine a world where saving is rare, where injuries linger and your vision blurs with fever. where supplies must be hoarded like sacred artifacts, and every encounter rips into your sanity. What if failure was real and final? How long would your courage last then? How many would crumble before hope? Zombies aren't just enemies, they're a mirror. They reflect humanity stripped of reason and hope. They are tragedy, decay, and the darkness in all of us. Games must tap into that raw human pulse for fear to thrive again. When you see a zombie, are you fighting a monster or your own shadow? Most modern zombies are detached from the world. They just wander, vacant and empty. But what if zombies carried remnants of memories, twisted fragments of their former lives lingering in their eyes or whispers? What if some still fought to hold on to shards of humanity? Would that fracture your resolve? Would you hesitate before the next kill? Fear is not just about what jumps out at you. It's the weight of sorrow, loss, and helplessness in an uncaring world. To resurrect fear, games must also revive these emotions. Zombies need to be more than targets. They should be storytelling instruments that drag you through despair and fleeting hope. How well do your favorite games tell that story? Think about sound again. The raw groan twisted with pain, the sudden crack of bone, the blood-curdling scream lost under the wind. Each sound is a pulse you feel inside. When they stagger closer, can you hear their shuffle like the last beat of a dying heart? Or have they become just background noise? Fear thrives on anticipation and surprise. If a zombie's approach is always the same, fear dies. Change their movements, let them adapt, let them hunt smarter, faster, deeper. Use silence and chaos like wild cards instead of cliches. How would you rewrite the monster to resurrect terror? And what of the traveler, the lone wanderer caught between ruin and salvation? It's your fight, your burden. Without real stakes, the fight feels hollow, like a game of clearing endless polygonal pests. But with fragility, with loss, with mystery, every step becomes a question. What would you do now? How far would you go to survive? Zombies stopped being scary because we forgot what made them terrifying. Not just the grotesque faces or relentless hunger, but the weight of true helplessness, the unpredictable threat, the haunting silence between every breath. The fear of what's human and what's lost, the smell of decay, the sound of finality. Remember the feeling, the breath hooked in your chest, the pulse that's barely there, the darkness that presses in closer every time. That same fear can live again in games. But it wants authenticity, vulnerability, mystery, death that means something. Here lies the answer. Fear is not killed by the monster. It dies when you no longer believe in the danger, when you hold all the power, when the world offers safety instead of struggle. Bring back the fragile moments, the unknown horrors, the lasting scars, and fear will walk beside you once more, ready to challenge, ready to hunt, ready to haunt. Fear is fragile. Fear is fleeting. Fear is waiting just beyond the edge. Subscribe to Think What If for more worlds you should never forget.